Oh, what's up, GameLeap? How's Season 12, eh? Well, 12.8 is going to be easier, because after watching today's video, you will know about 10 builds that are really overperforming in the current patch and that will still be good when 12.8 rolls around. And if you do want more informative videos just like this one, where we fill you in on what's happening on the Rift, let us know by leaving a like down below, and also make sure if you haven't already to check out the GameLeap website, because our Challenger players and coaches from around the world are uploading so many videos a week, and those are for our subscribers. So get signed up, get that exclusive access to the courses, the guides, the massive database of videos we have. You are 100% going to improve. So without further ado, let's get into the countdown. Now, starting off at number 10 for the builds of 12.8, we have the split pushing Jax build. So with Divine Sunderer and Hullbreaker, I'm sure we've all seen this. So Divine Sunderer with Sheen and the Spellblade passive, Hullbreaker which makes you tanky in the side lane. But what really caps this build off, if you're against attack speed based champions, so the enemy team might have an Aurelia, they might have a Tryndamere, they might have a Kindred, they might have a hyper carry AD carry like a Jinx or a Vayne. Frozen Heart actually completes this build and rounds it off beautifully. The armor is very useful, the mana isn't the most important thing in the world, but you get a ton of ability haste and also the passive, which is going to slow the attack speed of those opponents. Because with the Jax buffs, especially to his W, you have enough innate damage. You don't need to go ham and get a Bork and whatever else after that. You can actually build tanky and still deal a lot of damage, but with this you are unkillable and a much bigger threat. So Bruiser Tanky Jax with Frozen Heart comes in at number 10. Now ahead of Jax coming in at number 9, you could call this the Frozen Heart patch. This is Lilia, and I'm not talking about Lilia in the jungle, talking about Lilia in the top lane, and you can see that in Master and above with this setup, Lilias win 2/3 of their games. Now it might not be the biggest sample size in the world, but if these players are doing this well in high elo, then I guarantee you, against those attack speed based champions in the top lane, like Jax, like Tryndamere, like Aurelia, this champion is an amazing counter. Because of the AP ratio on your passive, this has gone up, and your W's damage is also up. This is nice for the laning phase, you're definitely going to feel it. So Lilia with the Frozen Heart Rush, just make sure you go Riftmaker and Demonic Embrace afterwards. She fills the number 9 position. But beating both Jax and Lilia, the Frozen Heart abusers, to number 8 on the countdown, this is Kai'Sa, who is getting some really nice buffs for 12.8. So the shield you get from your ultimate, this is scaling more of your AP, and on top of this, your passive's damage is going to deal more damage to tanks based off how much AP you have. So it's now going to be 5% per 100 AP. So what Riot are trying to do is draw Kai'Sa away from going Luden's Tempest and just spamming her W. It's pretty uninteractive, and this is also why they are nerfing your W's AP ratio down from 70% to 45%. This is a significant nerf, but to be honest, I think it's a quality one because it's going to encourage this setup right here to be built with Manamune, Nash's Tooth, and then Crown of the Shattered Queen. And even at the moment without these buffs, you can see that this is a 56% win rate in higher reloads. So this certainly works, but just be a little careful picking Kai'Sa in the mid lane or as an AD carry, because you do have a lot of hard matchups and hard lanes. Really, you want to be picking her when you know the laning phase is going to be free. This is why she does so well against champions like Ezreal, because she will 100% get to these 3 items. Now coming in at number 7, we're going to continue, I'm so sorry, but we've got to, with the Frozen Heart theme, and this is the last one, trust me, but this is Karma in the top lane. And you're probably like, why on earth would I build this on Karma? Well, let's think about it. You've got the attack speed reduction, and in the top lane, going against attack speed champions, kind of common, and also because you're a great team fighter, you are going to be near other enemy champions, and the AD carry on the other team, who doesn't build attack speed these days, so the item's passive is very valuable for a champion like Karma, but also the mana and then the ability haste, because Karma, you want to spam your spells like nothing else. And you can see that in higher reloads with Moonstone, then Frozen Heart, and even a Putrefier, which is going to give you a bit of heal cut, because sometimes your teammates just won't build properly, you can be the one in the top lane to do so. It's just a little riskier because yes, you might have to rely on your teammates more, because you're not going to 1v9 a game through one-shotting champions. So if your teammates want to win, and hopefully they do, this is a very underrated setup, and this is why it's on this countdown. Now number 6 is being filled by one of the best supports on the Rift at the moment, and this is Senna. And you might be like, oh, Senna, you know, everyone knows she's broken. But did you know that the Umbral Glaive Senna rush at the moment, and then following this up with an Eclipse and Rapid Fire Cannon, it is carving up higher reloads. So if we look at this win rate in Master and above with these 3 items, a 71% win rate from almost 100 matches. Then if we up the ante and go to Challenger, this increases to 75%. Now there are about 1/3 of the games played, so above 30, which isn't the biggest amount, but still, these games are going to be played at a higher level, and this just elucidates how strong center support is with the Umbral Glaive Rush. That is pretty damn good, and for a support, because of the Umbral Glaive buffs from last patch, this is going to accelerate your scaling more than pretty much any other support unless they're playing Pipe, because the support mythics and items, they cost more than Umbral Glaive does. So you're going to be hitting the first item spike a lot sooner, and it's very useful for center as well. Using the passive, because this cooldown is now down to 35 seconds from 45 seconds, you're going to clear more vision, get more space for your team. It's a great first item. Now after this, getting Eclipse for the passive, but also because of the armor penetration, you deal a lot of damage and it gives you the scaling you kind of need, because when you go Glaive, if the enemy champions do have any type of armor, you're not going to deal really any damage to them, so Eclipse is a must. And then finishing this off with Rapid Fire Cannon to work on your range and to keep the enemy champions at maximum distance from you, this is important as well. So the Umbral Glaive Rush center is number 6, and honestly could be higher. Now starting off the top 5, we have one of the most easy and fun to play setups on this countdown, and this is going AP Misfortune. Now it's not full AP Misfortune, it's actually just building Leandries, and you might be like, why on earth would I want to build this if I'm playing as an AD carry? Because support Misfortune for sure, you can probably see why you'd build it, but as an AD carry Misfortune, it's useful to build this in specific games. So if the enemy team has pretty much no front line, so there's no tanks there, they're all pretty squishy, and they have a lot of immobile backline champions, so they might have a Syndra as their mid laner. Their AD carry might be something like a Jinx. AP Misfortune can completely demolish these champions, and it's not even really for the bird. Don't get me wrong, it's very useful with your Make It Rain, but really we're getting Leandries for the ability haste, because spamming this multiple times during teamfights, it's a massive cuck to these immobile champions. And don't forget that your ultimate still has a little bit of scaling AP in there as well, as does your Q. So it might sound bad on paper going Leandries MF, but in the right game against immobile team compositions, and when they don't have a lot of tanks in the front line, it is an amazing build, and you will legit just insta-win games by building it. But one build at the moment in higher reloads that is not as niche as AP Misfortune, this is the Umbral Glaive Rush Graves. And because of the Umbral Glaive buffs from last patch, this item no doubt is going to be featured a few times on this countdown, and this is just one of them. So with Graves before this, you were going Eclipse and then Collector, but now with the Umbral Glaive Rush, because it's so much cheaper, this is a great item for Graves. The lethality, the attack damage, the ability haste, and also the passive as well, because you are a very aggressive jungler, you like to get in the enemy jungler's face. It's very useful for clearing vision and controlling the map, controlling space, and just putting pressure down on the rift. So really you're not sacrificing that much damage. Going Eclipse first might be a bigger spike, but Umbral Glaive is the earlier spike, and hopefully this will snowball you towards your Eclipse, then towards your Collector, and you can see that this setup in Challenger Korea, this has a 62% win rate from almost 200 matches. So if this works there, it is 100% going to work in every single other reload. So for any junglers out there, make sure you guys test this out for 12.8. But one Umbral Glaive Rush that's a little bit better than Graves rushing it, this is Rengar. And I actually mentioned this setup in our last builds video, but not the actual build itself. So Umbral Glaive into Duskblade into Essence Reaver, the attack damage, the lethality, the ability haste, all very nice. But what you guys might not know about this build is that you don't have to build boots. And it might sound kind of troll, but this is why you're going to run Relentless Hunter in your secondary tree. So the domination tree and your runes, make sure you take this, because once you get your stacks, you'll get more and more of this. And movement speed on Rengar, it is a useful stat, but you can make do without it. You can spend that gold, instead of putting it towards Lucidity boots, you can put it towards your Duskblade, your Essence Reaver. These items, especially if you're snowballing, if you get them earlier, games are just going to end quicker. So no boots, Umbral Glaive Rush Rengar comes in at number 3. Now I'm kind of excited about this next setup, because Ezreal, who is getting buffed in 12.8, I think is going to be super broken, and even right now, he is dominating high elo career. And really the key to all this is your keystone Fleet Footwork. And you might be like, why would I run this on Ezreal and not Conqueror, maybe Lethal Tempo? This is because Fleet Footwork works with your Q. It gives you so much sustain and mobility, of course, during the laning phase, which is really when you're weakest. You want to get to the mid to late game. This enables you to do that. And you might even see some other AD carries doing this to achieve the same thing. And because the ultimate buff to Ezreal next patch, this is going to get you to level 16, which is when your ultimate is going to be on a 90-second cooldown. And remember, with the ability haste you can see from these items, with Trinity Force, Mana Mune, and then Grudge or Frozen Heart, you will be spamming your ultimate so much. Your Mystic Shot as well, remember, is going to reduce your True Shot Barrage's cooldown, so you will be throwing these out left, right, and center. And after this, it really depends on the enemy team composition. If you need armor penetration to get through their tankiness, then get a Grudge. Or if you need to actually kite back yourself because they have a lot of dive, a Grudge will be very useful as well. But if they have a lot of attack speed based champions, Frozen Heart is amazing. It makes you very tanky. Just remember to get Lucidity boots in every single game, and you guys will be sweet. So Fleet Footwork Ezreal is the silver medalist. But who is the gold medalist? Who is the Usain Bolt at 12.8 League of Legends builds? Well, this champion hasn't been talked about about ever since he got nerfed earlier in the season. And this is Corki, and I'm not talking about AP Corki, because to be honest, that setup, well, it just takes too long to work. At least if you go Shield Bow, Manamune, and then Essence Reaver, you are actually a lot more relevant quicker in games. Now, yes, you might get your package later. Yes, your package doesn't recharge as much as it once did, but guess what? It still recharges enough, and particularly in lower elos, this won't mean that much, but you can see this setup in Diamond and above. This setup has a 55% win rate. Really not bad at all. Then we go to Master and above, a 64% win rate, and then Challenger, a 72%er. Now, of course, the games decrease because there are less players in Challenger, but just like the other builds we've talked about, all of these games are going to be played at a high level. Well, hopefully anyway. So for Shieldbow, Manamune, Essence Reaver, Corgi to have a 72%er, this is legit, and it speaks volumes to how good this champion actually still can be. But a bit like I said, just be careful about blind picking him, because you do have some very tough lanes to navigate out of. Really, you want to be picking him when you know the laning phase is going to be free, so you can hit the late game and then dominate. So those were the 10 high elo Korean builds, guys, for 12.8. Please let us know if you enjoyed the video, to leave a like down below. Any thoughts, any comments, any questions, leave them down below as well. And until tomorrow's daily Season 12 upload, this has been Coach Peace.